he just pushed the gas all the way through the whole block right there, crashing into like everyone in his way. I heard like a bunch of like crashing and stuff.
Canada is in shock this morning after a deadly car ramming in Vancouver. At least 11 people were killed, dozens more injured.
On a quiet afternoon in Vancouver, an act of violence shattered the calm, forever changing the rhythm of daily life. A car sped through a populated street, striking multiple pedestrians, instantly transforming the area into a scene of chaos and devastation. One person lost their life. Several others were injured. In the blink of an eye, a peaceful neighborhood had become the epicenter of a major investigation. Witnesses described the moment as surreal, a blur of motion, the deafening sound of impact, followed by an eerie silence, screams, and the frantic rush of emergency responders. Shock swept through the neighborhood as bystanders struggled to process what they had just witnessed.
Police vehicles are still here. Traffic restrictions are in place. Police are saying that these restrictions could last at least all night until tomorrow.
In the hours that followed, authorities moved quickly. A suspect was identified and taken into custody. Police confirmed the arrest and launched an extensive investigation into the events that led to the attack. Was this an isolated incident, a mental health crisis, or something far more complex? As the details began to emerge, the focus shifted to the man behind the wheel. Who was he? What could have driven him to commit such an extreme act? The Lapu Lapu Day Filipino Cultural Festival was in full swing on the evening of April 26, 2025. Thousands of festival goers gathered at East 43rd Avenue and Fraser Street, their joy and energy filling the air. But just after 8:14 p.m., that sense of celebration came to a violent end. A black SUV driven by 30-year-old Kaiji Adam Low suddenly sped through the crowd, leaving a trail of devastation. Within moments, at least 11 lives were claimed, including a 5-year-old girl, and over 30 others were injured, many critically. Witnesses described the chaos, with some brave bystanders rushing to restrain Low before police arrived. It was a moment of horror, one that sent shockwaves throughout the city and left the Filipino community in Vancouver reeling. As the initial shock settled, emergency response teams rushed to the scene. Paramedics and police worked quickly to assist the victims and secure the area. The investigation began immediately, and within hours, Low was taken into custody. Initial reports from the Vancouver Police Department ruled out terrorism and politically motivated violence.
That we do not believe this was an act of terrorism, nor do we believe there are any ongoing threats to our community.
But that didn't explain the senselessness of the act. What was the real motive behind Low's actions? Kaiji Adam Low, a Vancouver resident, had a history of mental health struggles. Authorities confirmed that he had frequent interactions with law enforcement and healthcare professionals due to his psychiatric issues. Just hours before the attack, Low's family had sought help, reporting signs of paranoia and delusional behavior. But despite these warning signs, no immediate intervention was made. Low's mental health crisis, which had been developing for some time, escalated into a violent outburst, yet no one could predict the devastating consequences that would follow. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Were there missed opportunities for intervention before it spiraled into mass violence? Low's background, while tragic, does not provide an easy answer to why this happened. In the aftermath of the attack, investigators have been focused on understanding the role his mental health played in the tragedy. So far, no manifesto or ideological motive has surfaced, and authorities have confirmed that Low had no known criminal activity or threats leading up to the incident. The prevailing theory remains that Low's actions were the result of an untreated or undertreated mental health crisis. This raises unsettling questions. How can such a tragedy unfold despite warning signs? And how can the system be better equipped to handle these crises before they reach such a violent peak? In the wake of the attack, Vancouver's Filipino community, along with the broader city, has been left to cope with the immense loss. Memorials, vigils, and moments of silence have taken place across the city, while survivors continue their recovery in local hospitals. Many of the injured are still grappling with life-altering conditions, and mental health professionals have been called in to assist the victims, witnesses, and the community as a whole. Vancouver's response has been swift, from providing immediate medical care to coordinating trauma services for survivors. But as the city begins the long road to recovery, the question remains: how can justice be served, and how can the healing process begin? The city's response has not only focused on the immediate care of the victims, but also on the long-term support needed for those recovering. Efforts to provide financial assistance, counseling, and community-based peer support groups are already underway. Occupational therapy and home modifications are being provided to ensure that survivors with long-term injuries can rebuild their lives. The city and provincial officials have made it clear no survivor or family member will face this alone. But as these efforts unfold, the larger conversation about the gaps in the mental health system is growing louder. Could better intervention or faster response have prevented this tragedy? Now the focus turns to justice. Kaiji Adam Lowe has been formally charged with 8 counts of second-degree murder, and more charges are expected as investigators continue to piece together the full timeline of events. But will the justice system provide a meaningful response to the tragedy? And just as importantly, how do we ensure this doesn't happen again? Lowe's actions have left the city devastated, but they have also sparked a national conversation about mental health intervention and public safety. Will Vancouver find the answers it needs to heal, and what can be done to prevent such a senseless act from occurring again? The city of Vancouver is now faced with a painful process of healing. The victims' families mourn their loved ones, while survivors begin their own journeys toward recovery. For many, this attack has forever altered the fabric of the city. Amid the grief, however, there is a collective resolve for justice, accountability, and a future where tragedies like this one are prevented. This incident, while deeply painful, has ignited a broader dialogue on the importance of mental health care, early intervention, and public safety, conversations that are crucial if the community is to rebuild and move forward. As Vancouver begins to heal from the shock and pain of this devastating attack, the road ahead remains uncertain. The scars left on the victims, their families, and the community are deep, but there is also a shared commitment to finding answers, seeking justice, and ensuring that no other community has to endure such a tragedy. This incident has opened up important conversations about mental health, public safety, and the need for better intervention before crises reach a breaking point. But while the investigation continues, the focus remains on the lives that were lost, the survivors who now face a long road to recovery, and the lessons that can be learned from this dark chapter. Will Vancouver rise from this tragedy stronger, more united, and more prepared to address the mental health challenges that lie ahead? Only time will tell. One thing is certain: the community's resolve to heal and rebuild is unwavering. Through the pain and sorrow, there is a call for justice, for better care, and for a future where such horrors are no longer a reality. As we continue to reflect on the tragedy of April 26th, we must also look toward a brighter, more compassionate tomorrow, one that ensures the safety and well-being of every individual. Thank you for watching. Let's continue to stand together, support one another, and work toward the change we need.